Hello, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you to this conversation about your Kundalini experience. My name is Chrism, and I am to give you an opportunity to have a conversation about these experiences. Kundalini is one of the most extraordinary experiences a person can have. Changes the world within and the world without. When you surround yourself and dedicate yourself to people that are being hurtful to others, shall we say, hurtful to others in ways that are violent, in the ways that are criminal. When you surround yourself by these kinds of activities, it's possible for you to also be infected by those qualities that will extend from the people that are doing you. Kind of like, fingers that extend into you by virtue of being in their presence or being enticed by the activity. I was walking the dogs at around 12 midnight about 5 days ago, and we had just had a a block away, and in that shooting, it was a pistol, like a 9mm, and when I was walking, two young kids came up behind me in the dark, and I surprised them with my flashlight, and the first child to be around 8 or, first of all, they're riding around, darkened streets at that night that kind of gives you an idea what kind of supervision they may be experiencing at home. Anyway, and it kind of angered that child, and he looked at me and he pointed his finger like a gun and he started going, pop, 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 and laughed to himself. Obviously, he was being influenced by the shooting and all of the attention that brought the neighborhood a few years earlier. And this brings me into the whole cops and robbers scenario. There's a percentage of police personnel that, because of their deep undercover work, their deep resentments about the unfairness of their life, if they're feeling that way, many qualities of disproportionate levels of anxiety and fear, these people will become influenced by the people that they are to pursue, that they are to arrest. And I want to be quick, not all of them fall into this, but some of them do. Clearly, about a third of them do. 33 and a third of the police will be influenced by the criminals that they're working so hard to apprehend. This is because of their proximity to them. And also, I think it's because here in the United States, there's a very limited psychological file on people who want to become police officers. They will take pretty much anybody that is able to graduate from the academy. That to change. And so, by virtue of these activities, the entities, negative spiritual consciousness that are attached to the criminals will indeed a healthy attachment upon the police officer that is apprehending them, leading that police officer into qualities of and distrust, hatred, anger towards a specific ethnicity or towards gender, or somebody who is gender identifying in specific ways, their animosity can be influenced, negative entity attachments that they're experiencing. It's very important for you to understand this. Just because cops are cops doesn't make them immune to spiritual entity influence. And I bring this up within a Kundalini context because the same thing can happen to you. If you choose to identify, like that child did, with negatives in a way to gain attention, or a way to gain power, or a way to gain self-validation through strength, well, you're opening yourself to that kind of event as well. Okay, you're pulling energy towards you. And I want you to reassess where find your strength. What is it through the movies? Are you looking at the Avengers and going, I need to have my superpower, so therefore I need to activate my Kundalini, and therefore that's all I do. I don't need to do any kind of egotistical, emotional detoxing. Are you looking at it that way? Or you look at that, I want to be the hero. I want to be Doctor Strange. I want to save everybody. I want people to recognize the goodness that I do. Once we're looking at egotistical manifestations of wanting to be noticed, of wanting the attention, of wanting to be the star of the spotlight, in the limelight. Have a look at within yourself, whether you want to be the rhinestone cowboy at work. For those of you that don't know what a rhinestone cowboy is, it's a person who works harder than everybody else, makes everybody else look bad. I was accused of that, in my younger years. I was brought up with a strong work ethic. You get up, at 5 o'clock, and you go out and you just start working hard all day long, on the farm, on the ranch. It's a working farm. So I would go to a job and I would work hard. It's a job where everybody else was just kind of slacking. Just like, I'm getting paid by the hour. I'll just kind of go through this day and little as I can do and yet still keep my job. So that's what a rhinestone is. And I, at the time, I wasn't really, it was just my work. I wasn't trying to anybody up. But there are people who do. And, you want to have a look at why you're feeling attention deprived. And, unless it's, of course, just a work ethic, as I was describing. Hopefully, some of you here, I want to say hello to everybody, but there's kind of a lot of you here. I would like, first of all, I'd like to say hello. And if you have a comment or a question, I will be looking at them. I will be looking at the section here. And Indra says hello, and Yasin says hello. Hello to everyone. If you have a question, please comment, column, and I will be reviewing that. And I'll just put a hello there. Folks can see it. I guess maybe I'm there. Hello. Like to know how the sound quality is. I went out and spent money. And I want to know if sound is coming through clearly. I will be reviewing it myself. I'll just have to go forward with this program. So when you're around negative entertainment or sources within your environment, David, Tommy. Hello. You want to be sure not to allow any kind of a spider web size connection. Hello, Em, and I'm spider web connection to connect to you and begin energy through you. Now, some of you have already had the entity, you've gone past it. or you think you have. Okay. Not always easy as 2 + 2 = 4. It's not linear and it's not so logical. If an entity has been writing you, inserting itself within you, those can go dormant as well. So really what Kundalini is teaching us through this, very, very discerning in who we are, why we feel, certain specific things are happening to us. And how do we respond to that? Do we allow to corrupt us? What do we allow to, in reverse, to teach us about our corruptibility? How do we protect ourselves by actions, by thoughts, by how we're discerning our own self-validation? Most police officers won't be able to do this. And so there'll be a kind of a continuous level of corruption, but not enough to get them kicked out of the force, but definitely enough to do some damage in society. You see it in the news every day, levels of police brutality that are not called for, that are more representative of that individual, that law enforcement individual's own emotional issues coming forward. We've got to remember that police officers are human beings, and human beings are susceptible to levels of possession that will control how they feel about what they do. Also, conversely, there is goodness. There is goodness that a person can have. And so there's this level of pull between the, shall we say, the forces and the forces of negativity. Okay. And thank you, David, for telling me about the sound. He says it's coming through well. I hope that's the case. I spent $100 on this microphone. That tells you how important these videos are to me. It's important that this information gets out. And so here we are. I've done the mic test before, and so it seemed to be coming through clearly. Know that there will be breaks, kind of like jump cuts throughout the recording, and I just wonder how bad they are. I'm getting a decent signal, not the clearest signal, because I'm out here and I'm surrounded by aluminum. So I don't know how Wi-Fi cuts through that. Anyway, we want to look at how we're feeling and why we're feeling how we're feeling. Do a self-assessment every hour of every day. Get used to the process of looking at yourself and going, am I making these choices? Am I making these decisions based upon how I'm feeling? Or is it something else in me to feel that way? Own your own consciousness. Own your own body. Own your own Kundalini. Kundalini allows this to force you into a level of discernment, to force you attention, because otherwise you won't. We've never had to, up until the Kundalini was. All of us could have just, we'd be swayed this way or swayed that way by the negative and positive forces of life. And now some of you were going, well, yeah, that's you have to have the negative in order to have the positive. And what I'm saying to you is we're surrounded by negativity quite a bit. We are surrounded by our politicians that are also infected by negativity, which make laws that cause people to be disenfranchised or to experience ruination, that cause the police officers to go and enforce these laws for people that are being ruined or that are not fair, that are gender biased or they're ethnicity biased. These types of options we're dealing with all the time. All the time. Yes, there is goodness too, but there is a stronger level of negativity in this society at this time. The society is about 250 years old, maybe 240. The United States, which I'm speaking of, is about 240 years old, give or take. Okay. That's not very old. The Roman society lasted for thousands of years. The Phoenician society lasted for thousands of years. The Egyptian societies lasted for thousands of years. We have gained in technicality and the ability to have technology at the expense of our ability to discern our emotional input. And it's our emotions that will cause us to do things, to make certain actions. Do we feel good with this? Do we feel bad about that? What are we going to do? How are we going to feel? What I'm saying to you is because Kundalini is such a strong amplifier